Welcome to Veterans Archives, where we preserve the stories of our nation's heroes in their own words and their own voices. Today is Saturday, March 11th, 2023, and I'm talking with Sandra Karanovic. So Sandra, or Sandy, but not Karen, we'll just start out with the basics and talk a little bit about when and where were you born?
I was born in January of '63 in Lackawanna, New York, and I was actually born in a blizzard.
Really?
Yes, there's a blizzard, and they almost didn't make it to the hospital with me.
Fortunately, they did.
Yes.
All right. And so what do you remember your childhood being like? What do you remember about your family?
My dad is served in the Korean War in the Army, and so we kind of grew up in a pretty strict uh, family. There were six of us. We had three boys and three girls. So he kept us, on the narrow. Um,
And where were you in that group of six?
I'm number four. I'm the middle girl. I'm the middle child. I'm the middle.
So a whole lots of stories about the middle child, right?
Right, right.
And what about your mom? What do you remember about your mom most?
As she could cook. My parents, my grandparents immigrated both from Poland, and that's one thing. That was a big thing was our dinners are together, and we always sat down and ate together.
So it was for her, it was almost like cooking for an army with that many
Yes, it
people.
was.
And so what was it like growing up in a house with five brothers and sisters?
Our house was 1,100 square feet, and that's it. And it had maybe a third of an acre in the backyard, so it was very small. And there was they renovated the attic, but because of the cost, it could never hook up the heat to it. And so we had three kids in each attic and a bedroom. And then my mom and dad were on the first floor, so it was very crowded. That's one thing I remember.
I can only imagine. So as you were growing up and heading off to school, what was grade school like for you, and then into middle school?
Um, I knew I was a pretty smart kid. I loved school. Um, I do remember walking in the snow quite often. They didn't cancel snow like they do now. Um, I had some excellent teachers. I was blessed to be in a really good school system. So that's one thing I'll have to give to my parents, that the house might have been small, but the schooling was excellent.
Location is everything, right?
Yes, yes.
And what were some of your favorite subjects in school?
Wow. Math and science. I love those. Languages. Uh, that's all I could think of off the top of my head.
Okay, all right. So you go through school, and really, we're here to talk a bit about your time in the military. So at some point, you decided to join the United States Air Force. Was that right after high school, or did you wait a while? How did that work?
Okay, I actually got married in April of '82, and jobs in Buffalo were horrible. Everybody got laid off. Everybody was looking for jobs. So at the time, I told my husband, I said, "Well, there's no jobs." I said, "Won't you join the Air Force?" And he was being a wise butt and said, "If you join, I'll join." And nobody expected me to join because I was very shy, very timid, and I said yes. And they didn't think I'd go through it, and I did.
Really? Did you go
Yes,
to the
it was.
recruiter together?
Yes, yes. We went to the recruiter together, and it was kind of a bet because no one thought I'd go through it.
Uh-huh. And so you had to show them, right?
Yes, that's right.
So did you go to boot camp together? How did that work as a married couple?
They actually sent me first, and I think they did that on purpose. So, because if he would have went first, he probably would have said, "Get out," because he knew I couldn't do it. But they sent me first in December, and they sent him in January. So we got to see each other in boot camp. And he was a rainbow, newly shaved, and I was graduating. And the first day we got together, I was totally flustered. Um, the training instructor said, "Your husband's over there." So I got all excited, went outside. I forgot to put my cap on, my cover, and proceeded to get reamed out from his TI for not having my hat on. And then my TI go, "That's his wife." Actually felt bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't feel bad about a whole lot in basic training though, do they?
No, they don't.
What was basic training like for you? So I get the sense that, like you said, you were shy, a bit timid, and no one thought that you would actually go through it. So tell me a little bit about that first day at boot camp.
It was my first flight. I never flew on a plane before. Never been away from home before. So it was almost surreal because it was like I wasn't even there. Um, and I'd wake up and be back in my bed in New York, but it didn't work out that way. Um, the strictness of it, in that I was kind of used to it. The hardest part for me was the physical aspect of it. I wasn't a real physical person. The studies and everything, that was a breeze. But anything physical, so the obstacle course, um, I liked that so much I decided to go through that twice.
Oh, and how did that work out for you?
First time, I fell into every water obstacle, every single one. If it was there, I was in it. So I had to repeat it because I failed the obstacle course, and it wasn't even my flight that was with me the second time I went through it. And it was cool because they knew I had failed, and everybody was cheering me on and trying to get me through and I didn't. I ended up falling in none. I sailed right through it. So I got to stay.
So I think, was that a good lesson regarding teamwork and
Yeah, definitely. When I remember going over the hand ropes, and I had this gentleman going, cheering me on, telling me I could do it. And it just kind of clicked with me because, like, okay, this is how this works. We help each other, through these things instead of you're not on your own. And that helped.
now, did you make a lot of friends in basic training, and do you keep in contact with them at all?
I haven't been able to find any of my friends in basic, unfortunately. Tech school, yes, I still keep in contact with people from tech school.
And so speaking of that, what was your job in the Air Force? What did you do?
I was a medic.
Okay.
And I was really, really lucky because usually in the Air Force, when you're a medic, you get stuck in one spot. Say you work labor and delivery, you work labor and delivery almost your whole career. But
Mhm.
for some reason, I was able to work every single area in the hospital. And I mean, I would the emergency room, the ambulance. I was able to teach, uh, med surge, you name it, I worked it.
So you graduated ahead of your husband and you went to tech school.
Yes.
What did he do in the Air Force, and did his tech school was his tech school anywhere near where you were at?
No, mine was in Texas, Shepherd, Texas, and his was in Denver, Colorado,
Okay.
Lowry, back in the day when it was still open.
All right. And what did he do in the Air Force?
He was in contracting.
Okay. All right. So tell me about tech school. You leave basic training and you head off to tech school. What was that like for you?
It was all medical, so it was my love. I've always been wanting to go into the medical field, and so I enjoyed the information, and the people that I was with, we just worked so well together. It was a good experience. Had one story where we were teaching restraints, and the teacher restrained me in hard restraints, which consist of tying down your hands, your knees, everything. Well, the teacher's got a funny twitch and decided to tickle me, and I kneed him right in the face. I couldn't help it.
That wasn't necessarily on purpose, right?
No, it was all reflex, and it's like sorry.
So I'm assuming they didn't do that again.
No.
So anything else from tech school that you remember? Any other stories, friendships that you've made?
Just we used to have to practice on each other. That was a little unnerving. Giving shots to each other. My partner decided he had to do my shot like a dart, and actually hit my bone with the needle.
Oh no!
Yeah, I just sucked it up and moved forward.
Right? That sounds very painful.
Yes, and we used to give each other IVs, and you learn to trust each other because after a while you knew your stuff, and you it's like, okay, he was the good one. Go to him for an IV.
Oh yes, yep. I definitely understand that. So you finish up with tech school, and what's your first duty assignment, and what was it like when you get to your first real station?
My first duty assignment was going to be Shepherd, Texas. And yes, everybody was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." It was back in the day where we had in process, and I literally had a pen in hand, 2 inches from paper, and they said, "Don't sign it." I was going to Griffiths Air Force Base, New York, because my husband at the time went to New York, so they got us a joint spouse assignment. And it was 2 inches off the paper where I would have had to stay in Texas.
Oh
That
my
close.
gosh!
So I had to stay down there for 2 more weeks until I got transferred up to New York.
And then what did you do in New York?
I worked at Griffiths Air Force Hospital, and it was a SAC base. I love SAC. You work hard, and the exercises and everything, they played for real, and I really liked that. I had some good training, and I knew I could go out in the field and do my job.
Mm-hmm. So were you when you went to New York, were you a field medic, or were you assigned to a certain part of the hospital? How did that work?
I initially worked medical surgical unit. Then I got transferred to, where did I go next? I went immunizations. I also trained as an EMT, so I got to assist the emergency room. And then they finally put me into a surgical clinic, which was great. I had 2 great doctors, and they used to teach me surgical techniques. I learned how to put stitches in like a plastic surgeon. So
you got to be pretty good at it.
yeah, I got good at it, and they let me remove lumps and bumps, and I was lucky to get to do all this stuff.
Well, that just sounds fascinating.
It was.
Now, was this the kind of thing that medics normally would do?
Depends on who you get as your doc. If a doc wants to teach you, yeah, I had 2 great docs that loved teaching. So they taught me all their little techniques, and you could get a doc that could care less. And I worked with some really good people at every place.
Well, and so how long were you in New York?
I was in 2 years from 84 to 86.
Okay. And then where did you go from there?
There I went to Turkey, and to Turkey Air Force, Instructor Air Force Base, Turkey. There you go. And That was actually easy because of being in a sack base. So it wasn't so hard. But I got there, I didn't realize how cold it was, and they were in the middle of an exercise, red flag, which was the big one, and I didn't have a jacket. And I remember being out in the cold, and I didn't, I had no idea Turkey got that cold. I figured they were warm, like Iran, Iraq, because we were an
Right.
hour away from all them. I figured, oh, they'd be warm. The weather out there is probably like, um, not like New York, but no snow.
Okay. And so what was your assignment there? What did you do at that base in Turkey?
That one I did labor and delivery, and we delivered all the babies for all of anybody stationed in Turkey. And I worked in nursery, of course. And then later on, I transferred to immunizations again, and orthopedic clinic and surgery clinic.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about the experiences in all those different areas. What was that like?
Uh, Labor and delivery was it was a little bit scary because we didn't have the modern equipment, and we were set up to have a normal delivery, nothing out of the ordinary. If something odd would come in there, we'd have to air evac them to Israel. Well, we had a young mom one time come in there, and she was 31 weeks pregnant. Normal pregnancy is 40. And she walked in, she says, I'm in labor. Okay, 31 weeks. Okay. She goes, I'm going to have twins. We had no equipment. Dr. Feldman, he made two breathing machines for two premature infants out of pieces and parts in the nursery, and saved these two little boys' lives. Because and the most they had, all they come out was with asthma. I was lucky because I worked the labor and delivery, and then I transferred over to pediatric, so I got to see these guys grow up for 2 years. But we had some really scary incidents like that.
Oh, okay. And what about some of the other departments? What are some of the things that you did there?
Let's see. The I won't give the name of the surgeon, but the surgeons and the doctors got very big heads on their shoulders because they were very important, and so all the nurses would swoon over them. And I was doing a colonoscopy with a doc once, and he was one of the prima donnas, and now this is before masks and gloves and everything, and he was doing a colonoscopy on somebody, and he pulled out the tube, and it come out, and it slapped him right across the face.
Oh no. Oh no.
I had blood in my lips from not laughing because I couldn't.
Right? How hard was that not to laugh at?
Oh my gosh, I thought I was going to wet my pants.
Oh no.
And it was kind of deserving. He deserved it, and he never would look me in the face again.
Right?
Right?
Right? Makes sense. So you how long were you in Turkey then?
2 years. There was two nurses in there. One was Willette Swan, and the other one was Angela Vickers. And they taught me everything nursing. And when I went to nursing school, it was like going to work because they had already taught me everything I needed to know. It was a breeze going to school. And so those two nurses I have to give a big kudos to.
Well, I think it's important that people understand that for all the success that anyone can have, there's always those people that open doors and helped us get to where we're at, right?
Yes, yes. And it was, they we were one big family in Turkey, and we took care of each other, and it didn't care who you were. And I remember one Christmas I made uh, Christmas cookies, like trays for everybody who was single, and took them. And because I felt bad because no one had families, and so that's what we were family. And then we get to Turkey, and then I go from Turkey to Hawaii, and then Hawaii was completely opposite. You were on your own, very cutthroat. People didn't help each other, and it was kind of sad to see that. I missed the camaraderie.
Yeah, I could see where that would be difficult. I need to ask though, so was your husband going from duty station to duty station with you?
Yes,
Or okay.
yes, we were real lucky that we got. That's why we had to go from Turkey to Hawaii, because of his job and my job. You can pretty much stuff me anywhere. With contracting, it's a little bit harder to find a place.
And what kind of things did you do in Hawaii?
Where did I work? I worked pediatric clinic in Hawaii, and I worked emergency room, and then I worked education and training. Pediatrics and education and training were two jobs I never wanted. And I said, please don't put me in these areas. And I got both. And I loved them. Loved them.
Well, I think sometimes that's how it works out. One, we ask for something and we get something completely different. And two, we end up liking that. What
Yep.
base were you at in Hawaii, and what island were you on?
I was on Oahu, and I was on in Hickam Air Force Base. And I tracked it was called buddy care back then. I don't know what it's called, but you had to be like first aid trained. And I tracked buddy care for all of PACAF, all the bases in PACAF. And then I did the training and teaching for the hospital, the clinic at the time.
Okay. And you were in, how long were you in Hawaii?
Hawaii, I was there from 89 to 92.
Okay. All right. And any good stories from Hawaii?
I'm trying to think. Oh, there was lots. The medical squadron likes to play tricks on each other, especially the newbies. And we had a new doctor there, surgeon, and I put a letter on his desk. I said, please call Captain, what did I say? Captain Rudolph at Randolph Air Force Base. Well, Randolph Air Force Base is where we get our assignment. And he slams his door, and I heard him swear. And this guy was he was about 6'5", Southern. Well, the number was to Santa Claus. And all I heard was, Sandy, Sandy. And I walked in his office, and he was beet red. And he's like, you will never pull something on me again. He got me.
Yeah. He got a little wise to it, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Well, so where did you go from Hickam then?
Well, Hickam, I actually got out. I was medically retired, and I finished up I was going to school at a full-time school as I was active duty. I was enrolled in, it was first called Hawaii Loa, and then they changed it to Hawaii Pacific University. And so I was in full-time school and active duty. And unfortunately, my body said, we're not doing this anymore, and I got sick.
Okay. Now, did you stay on in Hawaii after you got out?
After I got out, I stayed 2.5 years in Hawaii to finish up school. And after Hawaii, I followed on with my husband at the time to, where'd we go? Colorado.
Okay. Now, when you went to school in Hawaii, were you getting your nursing degree at the time, or what were you going to school for there?
Nursing degree.
Okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
I would be doing the classwork, and then the what are they called?
Clinicals?
Yeah, thank you. Clinicals, where you had to go out and do that. So I was working like 80 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a long week.
It's a long day.
What did it feel like to graduate from nursing school, though? I mean, how did that make you feel?
Pretty incredible with all the work I had to put into it, and the my immediate bosses were really, really supportive. Not so much on the other side with the rest of the people, but I got a lot of support, and graduating, it was just like the utmost. I mean, I did something that most people can't do when they're active duty. So
Right. Right. So
if I thought about it, I would have gotten out and did it, but I don't know why I didn't do that.
I think especially when you're in the military, you just think you can do anything, right?
I think so. Yeah, and you're 20 something years old, you think you can do everything.
Right, right, exactly. So, during all that time, were there ever times where you just felt like, oh, I just can't do this?
I got very ill during that time. I ended up getting kidney disease, and I had pain 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so I was dealing with that along with school, along with active duty and everything else. And yeah, there was times that that I thought I literally couldn't do it. There's almost died 3 times trying to get through this. So at least some perseverance.
Right? Did that kind of add to that feeling after you graduated that that was really an accomplishment at that point?
Yes. Yep. The sad point about it is I really wanted to get my commission. That was my plan, and I didn't. So it was bittersweet.
Right. So what rank were you when you finally got medically retired?
I was an E5 staff sergeant.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you go through school. It sounds like it was really not an easy task at all based on your illness and everything else going on, and you end up in Colorado with your husband. I'm assuming that he's still continuing his Air Force career at this point.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And then, so what did you do in Colorado?
I was teaching. I was teaching for a bit. I did a thing where we took the retired nurses or nurses that didn't have a whole lot of hours, and we kept them updated on their education. And so I was the president of this organization, and we would get doctors and people from the local area to teach these classes, so people didn't go backwards, and would stay up to date on their education.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a fun job. I enjoyed that.
Okay, what did you enjoy most about that?
Just being able to get the information out to these people so they didn't sit at home and just wither away, all that medical information. They could still use it. And sometimes a lot of people would volunteer and be able to keep up on their licenses because of this.
Okay. So do you find that a lot of nurses, when they retire, still continue to do like nursing part-time or something? Are those the folks that you were working with mostly?
Yes. That's a lot of the nurses I work with this organization. It was a part-time. Let me see if I can remember the name. Retired Part-Time Nurses Association. And a lot of the nurses that were in it were prior military. And the prior military are the people that put this organization together for the rest of the nurses in the state. So yeah, so we could all keep up on our we used to have to keep up on their licenses. You used to have to take so many classes a year. When you're out of the workforce, it's hard to find these classes. So that way we provided these classes for these people to keep their licenses up to date.
Okay. And how long were you in Colorado doing this?
Colorado was 95 to 99.
So it sounds like that's the longest you really remained in any one place after you left home.
3 years. Yeah, 3 years. Every 3 years I moved, and I still get the itch every 3 years.
Do you?
Yes, I do. In fact, I really do not know how to decorate a house because we never bothered. We never bothered putting things on the wall because they had to come down in 2.5 years. So we just left everything in boxes.
Yeah.
So
Moving from place to place, right?
yes, yeah.
And so where did you go after Colorado then?
Okay, while I was in Colorado, I had my daughter, and then we moved from Colorado to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I was pregnant with my son, and he was born autistic, and so I decided to come out of nursing and raise the kids.
Oh, okay. Now tell me about your daughter, if you don't mind.
Oh no, not at all. My daughter was born in '95. Right, she is a she was a parole officer, and she went to school and got her master's in criminal psychology from Edinburgh University in Scotland.
Oh,
Yep.
that's quite an accomplishment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We started traveling with her when she was 2 years old and took her all over the world, and she is still the same traveler.
And so what does she do for a living?
Right now, she just got married, and her husband's still active duty. So they're in the middle of moving to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. Now, does she put things on the walls?
Yeah, she's awesome at it. Her house is beautiful. It's like, where'd you get this from?
I see. I see. Well, good. And what about your son?
My son is 23 years old. He is 6'8", and he's amazing. He couldn't talk until he was 4, and he couldn't read till he was 8. And one time we were going down the street, and all of a sudden he started reading everything on the signs. All the signs, he started reading all of them. It was just like he was sitting there drinking it all in and then spit it all back out again. And he didn't get too much from school. He's taught himself from books. He taught himself algebra from a book. It's like, it's amazing. So he may have autism, but I think he teaches me more.
Well, do you think that he inherited some of that science and math from you?
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt. It's just the insatiable need for information,
Mhm.
and that he is exactly like me.
Now, does he work? Does he work?
No, actually, he's going to school for information technology, and he didn't go to school for the first semester. He learned everything on the book, took the test, and passed. So he is certified IT. Never gone to class. He took it out of a book.
That just amazes me.
I know.
That just you have. It sounds like you have two just amazing children.
Yes, I've been very blessed. The kids are great.
Absolutely, and I have to say that when people say they have an autistic child, I think many times people have this image in their head or this thought process around, what people are capable of doing. And
Hmm.
I think we've learned a lot as a society that those are just kind of labels that we put on people, but that
Yes.
shouldn't limit them.
No, it's just I believe it's just a different way of learning, and we have discussions on politics and medicine and everything, and it's just, and he always studies and researches before he tells me something. Because he won't tell me a lie, and he won't tell me something off the cuff. He'll back it up with facts. It's like, and it's pretty amazing.
Oh, good for him. So I
Mhm.
want to go back now and talk about this. So you had your daughter and you were pregnant with your son and you're headed to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And
Yes.
so what was that like?
Windy, 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 windy. We tried to find a house up in Cheyenne, and everybody's basements were done up really nice. I mean, like real nice living rooms. We couldn't figure out why. It's because in the wintertime, the wind starts blowing and doesn't stop until spring. So everybody stays in their basement because the windows rattle so bad it'll drive you crazy.
Really, I didn't know that about Wyoming.
Oh yes, it's nonstop wind. In fact, you leave Colorado, the last town is Wellington, and there's nothing between Wellington and Cheyenne. And sometimes you'll find trucks tipped over because the wind tips them over, takes them right off their four wheels and leaves them on the side.
That sounds a little scary.
Yes,
A
you get
little
used
bit.
to it.
So what did you do in Cheyenne, Wyoming?
Let me think. I did work a little. What did I do? I worked. Okay, that company I worked for were teaching was based out of Colorado Springs. So I couldn't work for them anymore. So I did a lot of their paperwork and setting up the classes. So that's what I did when I was up there. And then eventually after Alex was born, because he was just so high needs, I had to quit.
Right. And how was that for you?
What's that? Quitting?
Yeah, leaving the workforce and being a full-time mom. Now, I would argue that I don't think there's much of a difference between those two, except maybe the people you work with, right?
Right, right. It was very much the same because of my son was on oxygen for 6 months.
Mhm.
So there was just a lot of care and doctor appointments with him. But getting out of nursing was like taking a fish out of water. Yeah, that's my love. And so I got to use a little bit of it, helping my son, but otherwise I was taken out of it, and it was a big change.
Yeah,
Just as getting out of the military, that's a big change. And for many, many, many years, I missed it. I missed it a lot because I love what I did. People said I used to actually bounce to work because I was so happy to be there. It's like I work pediatric. I work with kids all day. That's the best job you could have, Sick kids,
right.
but
Yeah. Well, and I think Mark Twain said that if you find a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life, right?
yes. And I had one of those jobs.
And
I was
not everyone can say that.
no, no. And that's one thing I taught my kids: find something that you enjoy. And
Mhm.
Alex, when he found IT, the computer world, it was like a whole new door opening. He found his niche, and my daughter tried nursing. She tried becoming a doctor and then a nurse, and it's funny because she couldn't do the math, so she ended up in doing law in psychology.
Well, and I think we all find our kind of our niche, where we belong. And there's nothing more amazing, I think, than seeing your kids discover that thing, right? When that light
Yes,
bulb goes off in their heads.
yes, it is. That is amazing.
Can you talk,
Very joyful.
yeah, can you talk a little bit about that when, when you saw your son discover that, IT was his thing?
Wow, that was a sweet day. I was always worried what he's going to do after I pass. And at the time, what grade was he in? I think he was in ninth grade. And he was kind of floundering and just not really being drawn to anything. And it wasn't until after he graduated high school, because we put him in a public school for his high school for 10th, 11th, and 12th, which was a very good idea to get him used to the real world. And he was in agriculture, which he loved. And then a teacher introduced him to programming. And that it took off from there. He came home and it was 100 miles an hour telling me, what a computer does. In fact, before he even finished the class, he built his own computer, his Omega computer, just from reading. And I'm like, I was so afraid because it was expensive. I'm like, what
Right.
if this doesn't work? Work flawlessly. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What a relief.
So every time I have computer trouble, I call him and he's like, support.
I think that's what parents do, right?
Yes,
We
yes.
call our kids when we can't figure it out. So how long were you in Cheyenne, Wyoming then?
I was in 3 years,
Okay.
and then we moved to Langley, Virginia.
Oh,
And see, the kids were, Rachel was in second grade, Alex would have been in preschool. And we lived kind of far away from the base. We lived about 30 miles away from the base, and a great neighborhood. And the people were very supportive with Alex, that helped a lot. Because raising an autistic child, and well, even any child, when you have no family, no friends, it's hard.
right. Well, and I think you got to see it from both perspectives, right? You got to see it
Yes,
when you were active duty, and now you see it as the spouse of an active duty member.
yes, yes. And especially the thing with pediatrics, because I used to work phones, and everybody thinks their child is the only child in the whole United States that has chickenpox at the time. And I couldn't relate to that. I had no children at the time. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, that's why their kid, they wanted that appointment then. It made sense,
Yeah. Did that help? Did that help shape how you would talk to people when you had a challenge with one of your children? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
definitely.
Like it's very easy to be mean to the doctor's office unless you've been on
Yes.
that other end, right?
Yes. Yes. It's like, it's not their fault,
So your kids were fairly young while you're in Langley. Were you doing any work at the time then, or were you still taking care of kids?
Taking care of kids.
Okay. And not to diminish it, that's work.
Yeah, Alex was work, trust me.
And then, so were you in Langley for 3 years there as well?
3 years in Langley. And then
Uh-huh.
we went down to Herbert, Florida.
Okay. And what was that like?
Hot, horrible. I hated Florida. It's funny. I had it on my dream sheet all those years when I was active duty, and I am so glad I didn't get stationed there. It
Right?
was just miserable. So there, I basically took care of the kids and drove, because I had one kid and I drove 300 miles a day to get the kids to school. Because I had to take my son to a special school in Pensacola, then drive my daughter to another school in Pace, come home, and then do the whole thing, all day long. So I played taxi.
You were full time. You're all set to be an Uber driver then, right?
Yes, 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 I am.
So from Pensacola, where to then?
I am in. I decided to get out. Believe it or not, I was in Florida for 12 years. I waited for the kids to graduate and get off to college, and then I moved up to Michigan. And I literally put I was dating somebody at the time, and they said, look at anything above Grand Rapids. So I got a map out, looked up in Grand Rapids, got Zillow out, picked out 15 houses, come up here in one weekend and looked at 15 houses and bought a house.
Wow.
Yep.
I
Well,
don't know what
that's
else
how
to
we
say, but
always,
wow.
that's all we have to do. Every time you only get like 4 days to look for a house. So every time we moved, we would have to find a house in 3 days. So I got really good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've never, I've heard the whole story. You've never lived in Michigan then before.
No, no, I never lived in Michigan, and we ended up in Newaygo, Michigan, in
Hmm.
a little town of 2,000 people.
And how do you
And
like it?
I love it. My house is in the forest. It's in the Manistee National Forest, and I have 100-foot pines all the way around me, and I absolutely love it.
Can't ask for much more than that. You don't get the wind of Cheyenne. You don't get the heat from
No,
Florida, right?
yeah, and the snow's not as bad as Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they get snow here, but Buffalo gets pounded.
So did you moved up here because you were dating someone who lives in Michigan then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I missed the north too. I missed the seasons. I missed the snow, something fierce.
Mhm. Now, did you start working again?
No, I did not. I initially my son did not live with me, and he just come up to live with me. So I'm getting him back into college again. So I'll be paying taxi again.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Well, good. So how do you think, looking back over all of this, how do you think the military prepared you for your life after the military? Now, I know that you were still a military spouse, but you weren't on active duty. How do you think that all that work in the military prepared you for not being in the military?
It made me a more organized person, and when uh, 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 something bad would happen or something would come up that most people would freak over, you just tackle it different than if you're when you're in the military. You just take it section by section, and I continued using that same basis as with anything outside of life.
Okay. Now, I do have another question too, and that is, um, I see behind you there's a picture on the wall.
Hmm.
Decorate your walls now?
Actually, somebody put that up there, and the answer is no. I have nothing on my walls. I have clocks. That's the only thing I have on my walls is clocks.
As we wind down our conversation today, I did want to ask just one more thing, and that is, people will listen to this story many, many years from now, because the idea is that we have this archive available so people can hear not only about your military history, but how that shaped you as a person and the things that you did afterwards. Um, but if someone listened to this story 50 years from now, what would you want them to take away from your life or this conversation?
I think everybody should do a stint in the military. I think it makes you grow up, um, and it teaches you respect and respect for other people. And that, not that I didn't have respect for other people, but it made me appreciate other people and what they do and the whole how we all work together for one common goal. And that was the biggest thing. I loved it. And if I could do it all over again, I definitely would. I highly recommend it for everybody.
To listen to this full story or to hear the stories of other veterans, go to www.veteransarchives.org and click on the Media tab.